Women for Cities. 5 women share their work on sustainable urban development, building cities for all, implementing the global goals locally, leaving no one behind. How do you implement the Swedish feminist foreign policy in urban development?
Afrikagrupperna is a member-based solidarity organization, and we have been working since the end of the 60s. So the experience is very thorough within the organization. So the methods and the ideas and the ideology has been more or less the same throughout the decades, but also some of the specific target has changed. And for instance, recently we took a fairly strong feminist strategy. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, which secures, since we work towards equality, we need to secure that the most vulnerable groups, which are women and children, are secured within this. So we need to have a perspective on, from a feminist point of view, in all our work. So the broad answer is that we work with the feminist perspective in all our development cooperation. But we also have specific project where this is the specific target group.
Can you share any good examples from your work?
It's also very important to highlight the development and how it looks in the world. The UN has predicted that the world population will increase and be around about 9.6 billion people on Earth 2050. And to a large extent, that is on the African continent. So in Africa, the population will actually double or more. So the African population will be about 2.4 million by 2050 in this prognosis. And the urbanization is also a large movement within this development. So when the population increases, the movements and the settlements changes from rural to urban. And in order to secure a feminist development and a development that is sustainable and long-term based, we need to work very hard on securing the rights of rural women. So one of the examples, to take a specific practical example, is Afrikagrupperna works not by doing projects of our own, or not by implementing our own ideology by inventing projects in our Southern African context where we operate, but to actually secure the civil society that is already set in place. So our strategy is that the right bearer is the one to state the need and also to form and formulate the methods in how to reach sustainable development. So one of the examples is the Rural Women's Assembly, which is an organization that organizes rural women within the whole Southern African region. They have more or less 300,000 different individual members. And this is in a context where there is a challenge to have, for instance, internet. There is also a challenge in how to organize and how to mobilize and how to meet and organize events, etc., and to reach this target group. But from Afrikagrupperna's perspective, this is one of the most important ways to reach those target groups that will be the future urban citizens, and also the right to actually own the land that you farm. Because in Africa, more or less 90% of all the food is actually produced by women. So you can imagine the extent of power that these individuals do have. But nevertheless, the rights are limited, the possibilities to expand are limited, also the possibility to cooperate and to get information is limited. So this is a hugely important factor. And linked to that, and why is this, I mean, to pose the larger question about urbanization, why would this be a very specific and important method to reach the group that will be the future urban citizens of, let's say, 2050 or 2030 even? if these women get the possibility to mobilize and work together, they also get possibility to secure other rights areas within the human rights sector, such as sexual and reproductive health rights, which is a hugely important aspect of implementing the Swedish feminist foreign policy. If the sexual and reproductive health rights are threatened, which we see like globally, also in both in the global south, but also in Europe and in the United States, that's a setback for all human rights, and it's the first sign of a challenge and of a threat. So securing women's possibility to meet, to have larger meeting, to mobilize, to feel secure that they can meet without the threat of... It might be easier, for instance, to organize a conference on agroecological methods than to actually organize a conference on trauma after rape, for instance, or violence in sexual violence in conflicts. But the possibilities of a synergy within these areas is huge when women meet. So actually mobilizing and offering safe spaces and being able to support the movement from the grassroots is one of the most important methods to reach sustainable development, and also to integrate a feminist perspective within all the development cooperation work.
Why are women in cities key for sustainable development?
To reach a sustainable development all over the globe, and also to face all the challenges that we are standing before right now, the climate change, the setbacks when it comes to democracy, sexual and reproductive health rights, as mentioned earlier, human rights, and our possibility to actually decrease poverty and reach food sovereignty within the global south. All these areas, in all these areas, women are key, because if the sustainable development doesn't focus or do have a feminist perspective and analysis and a knowledge and a know-how and a specific method for reaching out to the most vulnerable target groups, and also for securing the urban areas for women, we also face a challenge when it comes to development within other areas, such as economic growth, for instance. One example is that the informal sector produces a lot of growth, and also and this is an area where women are key. Women are often vendors of vegetables and fruits and specific things on marketplaces that are linked to the urban areas, but also has a very strong connection to the rural sustainable development and to the movement of actually forming a society that is safe for all. So much of the focus on projects that when women are the main target group gives trickles down to all the society. And the feminist approach is also something that we need to guard extra in these times of nationalism, in times of shrinking space. And I would say that one method is also to think about how the sustainable development is actually a liaison that needs to be formalized like in a long-term basis. In Afrika-grupperna we work with core support, which is a kind of demanding support form. It means that you need to partner up with the organizations that you support. So you're not a donor that comes with a bag of money and you just leave them there, but you actually form an agreement where you work together very, very thoroughly, and the contracts are very long. And I think that's one of the things, the methods, the actual practices that could support this kind of development and strengthen. If we strengthen civil society within those areas where democracy is threatened, we actually, that's like vaccinating the society against anti-democracy and totalitarian movements and nationalism, etc. So I would say that that's the way to go, but we also need to implement the feminist analysis within that struggle on a day-to-day basis.
What lessons learned and recommendations can you share?
I would say that stick to the concept and live your ideology and walk the talk. That's like the primarily important lesson, and we've been learning this lesson for a long time, but it's also nice to see that the movement and how it was formed from the beginning in actually the circle of solidarity, and actually targeting that the rights bearer is the one to address and state the need, and not the other way around. It should never be top down when it comes to development. The only way to create sustainable development is actually to listen to those whose rights are threatened, and that's a recommendation. And also, as mentioned earlier, I think the model with core support is something that we could trickle up more. It's really demanding, and it gives the organization very much work with walking with and listening into and navigating within the landscape of the civil society in the areas where you are working or operative. But it also gives a very strong sense of being a strong funder and walking with. For instance, we've seen now 2 devastating cyclones in Mozambique, where we have many of our partners and many of our colleagues, etc., that are working. And of course, the core support for the partner organizations that are operative within this area offers a possibility for them to change their specific needs within their budget, for instance, as long as we have a dialogue. But that offers the possibility to actually rebuild an organization that might have been destroyed, like when it comes to office space or furniture, for instance. So that's one key issue. I would say core support is key. And then the other one is what we're actually talking about here, the feminist approach. And daring to be the feminist in the room. When we discussed the feminist foreign policy and also the prior discussion in Sweden about the feminist government, that was so mind-blowing. There was a discussion about that. Is this only like the signal politics? Is it something that we say, and how can we actually prove that we are feminists? But I think it's actually important to just say it, even if it's just saying in the room that you are the feminist within the negotiation. That's pushing forward. So I don't think we should be afraid of those kind of signals, because those are important signals within these times of many setbacks and many challenges.